Welcome to World Record Valby. After spending countless hours on this character, I'm ready to show you a solo bossing, group bossing, and support bossing builds that you're going to absolutely love. But on top of that, I have an incredible mobbing build that I just could not put down. This character is very complicated when it comes to reactors and external components and the mods. So let's go ahead and dive in on my favorite way to play Valby. For starters, let's talk about the solo bossing build. I wanted to make sure this character felt incredible in a solo boss environment, so these are the type of mods that I used. Full disclaimer, some of these mods are flexible, but because I don't want to take up too much of your time, I will not get into it. Instead, I'll just tell you, you can stop by my twitch.tv/IFrostBolt to ask me personally, and then I can share my testing with you. But for now, this is what I found to be the most consistent and gave me the highest success when using Valby. I want to focus on the Descendant mod Supply Moisture, as everything is going to revolve around this. I'm going to increase firearm critical hit rate, skill duration, and other benefits when I'm on water. With that being said, I want the water to last longer, so I'm using things like skill extension. I want my debuffs on the boss to last quite a while as well, so I'm using things like that as well, like lethal infection, to increase my skill power modifier. When it comes to skill power modifier, I am increasing that along with skill critical hit damage and skill critical hit rate so that I can deal more damage over time, and also that initial bubble bullet impact can deal some whopping damage. Now, the mods here alone won't be everything that you need. There is more to it, such as the reactors and external components, but I'm happy to tell you that you can be very flexible when it comes to slotting some of these. When it comes to the reactor, I'm using dimension and non-attribute skill power boost ratios. That is the most important. For the substats, I decided to go with Colossus and non-attributes power boost ratio. This is what gave me the most consistency. As for flexible stats, I found success using things like skill critical hit damage, skill critical hit rate with Colossus, things like non-attribute with dimension bonus damage. Basically, the difference was minimal, but I did find more success with the one that I'm using right now. As for the external components, same story. What I'm using right now is a 2-set of Annihilation to get more skill duration and a 2-set of the Veteran Marksman set. This is what gave me the most consistent damage output, but it is not the only way to play and get good success on solo bossing experience. I found using an entire Slayer set to be just as effective as what I have, just a little bit less consistent. In fact, one of the builds I'm going to show you later has an entirely different set that I absolutely adore for group bossing. But before we get there, I have to show you the weapon that I decided to pair with Valby here, and that is the Enduring Legacy. With this mod types on my Enduring Legacy, I was able to melt these bosses. Could I have killed these bosses faster if I was using Greg's Reverse Fate? I think so, but I decided to keep Enduring Legacy to keep the testing consistent. The good news is that no matter what environment I was in, solo, group, support, play, this exact mod type setup gave me such good success, so I don't have to mess around and change my mods constantly if I'm just going from solo to playing with a team. That right there is your solo bossing setup. What do you say we head on over and talk about the group bossing? All right, so for group bossing, I have to say this is my favorite way to boss. I love the damage output, my HP and defense, and my cooldown. So these are the mods I decided to socket. Right away, you're able to notice that I decided to invest more into things like HP and cooldowns. Instead of running the normal non-attribute specialist, now I have focus on non-attribute to get those cooldowns. Much like my solo bossing, I'm still retaining a lot of the damage output, but except now I am much tankier but still have all the damage output that I need. We are going to have a set change, but the reactor is staying quite similar. If you need to know some flexible reactors, check out the previous section. As for the set, unlike the previous section, I am running an entire Annihilation set so that my skill duration is longer, which means that the debuff I apply to bosses from my bubble bullet will last longer, thus increasing our team damage. But on top of that, as I'm taking damage and losing HP, I'm increasing my firearm attack damage, which is something that I'm going to compensate for the lack of shot focus on the group bossing build. Just like I showed in the last section, my machine gun is still staying the same, and I'm still finding incredible success dealing damage, being in group bossing scenarios, and staying alive. Next up is the support grouping build. I had to buy an extra tab to hold all these builds, and it's still not even enough. If you want to drop me a like on the video to support me on my journey of creating builds on this game and just creating content in general, even dropping me a follow on twitch.tv/IFrostBolt would mean a lot, guys. Here we are. It's a build focused on absolute zero. When you're fighting Gluttony, you have these Rasengan bubble bullets that you can throw at the crystal balls that travels towards the boss, attracting those snow globes towards him as well, making it much easier to get through that fight. Some big differences here is a focus on cooldowns and a mod change to focus on dimension. You see, absolute zero now gives me 3 dimension abilities, so I decided to buff all 3 and use this one. I'm still focused on skill extension, but a little bit more focus on cooldowns, such as the time distribution mod, which gives me a skill cooldown and max HP bonus on top of that increased HP. And that right there is my support bossing build. Good damage, good survivability, and decent cooldowns to continue supporting and debuffing bosses. The reactors staying the same as the previous segments, along with the external component set. What do you say we move on and start talking about some mobbing builds where Valby really starts to get more addicting to play? Alright, so for the mobbing build, I knew I wanted a couple things. I wanted range to cover the battlefield, of course, and I wanted skill cooldowns. I wanted HP as well, so I wouldn't just die to random mobs. As I experimented with different mods, there was one that really stood out to me the most that just made me so addicted, and that is Cold Cohesion. This turns my second ability into what I would like to call a Giga Chad jump, alright? You jump twice, you press this ability, you get a third one, and then you can scream cannonball. You clear the ads around you, dishing out incredible damage. So for that reason, we have 2 main mods here. We got Focus on Fusion, which is going to give us skill cooldown, and we have Focus on Non-Attribute, which works on all of our abilities and also grants us skill cooldown. I wanted HP, so of course we got increased HP, and the perfect mod to add on top of this is Time Distribution. You see, this is going to give us skill cooldown, but also increase our HP. With that out of the way, I wanted to make sure my abilities had decent damage, especially because when I'm doing these dungeons and I'm starting to fight elites that are much chunkier, you know, they just won't die to the 3rd dimension ability. So that's why we're stacking critical hit damage and critical hit rate in the likes of Frontlines. We got skill concentration, non-attribute sing, and after that we focus on the skill effect range and duration so that we can leave puddles of water around the area for longer periods of time, and these abilities can just hit every target even if I'm not right on them. That range and damage is incredible on the Hydro Pressure Bomb. When it comes to the reactor and external components, I took a very different approach compared to the bossing build. I wanted skill range and skill cooldown. Having skill duration up is also acceptable here. Whether you go dimension or fusion is up to you. Unfortunately, the reactor forms are quite terrible, so fusion would have been nice to showcase, but the damage is still there that you are okay to use what I have here on the screen. As for the external components, I only have a 2 set that matches, and that is the Annihilation set. For the skill duration, you see, the longer I last in my 3, you know, the faster I can chain that to the next ability. Besides that, I'm running a Polar Knight set so I can get increased HP and have my character sitting at a comfortable 16,000 HP value. This to me is one of the funnest ways to play the game, and I'm so excited that I get to showcase it to you, to share it with you so that you can try it and have so much fun the way that I do. Thankfully, this is not the only mobbing build, so let's take a look at the other one. With the cannonball build out of the way, let's talk about the Rasengan build. So right off the bat, I wanted to focus on mana, cooldowns, and of course some decent damage. So you can see I have 2 gold mods. MP Collector is nice as I don't have to get close and collect mana cubes. I can just chuck my absolute zero Rasengans and get mana back from a distance. I am very concerned about cooldowns, so I got focus on dimension and multi-talented. Considering we have 3 dimension abilities, it is very easy to constantly proc the skill cooldown buff because I'll be using 3 abilities of Spiral Tidal Wave. We have Plop Plop, and of course we got the cleanup ability. Much like the previous mobbing build, I am focused as well on range and some decent damage in the likes of using Frontline, Skill Insight, Skill Concentration, and Non-Attribute Sync. We do have MP Accelerant to not only increase our MP, but increase our skill duration. Even though we are focusing on spamming the Rasengans, they leave a puddle of water and they apply a debuff on the targets, which is very nice to take advantage of to do continuous damage, and especially because our puddles from cleanup and from Plop Plop would last longer. I still care about HP, so we do have one of those increased HP mods. As for the reactor and the external components, not much is different compared to our previous mobbing build. We still want things like skill range, skill cooldown, or skill duration up. I care about my HP, so I got Polar Knight set, and I'm running a 2 Annihilation set here for the skill duration. And there you have it. That is world record Ultimate Valby completed. What a character. There is so many ways to play it. I approached this in the sense that I wanted it to be fun for mobbing, for support, for group play, and solo play, and I think this is a banger. Can't wait to read your thoughts in the comments down below, and I can't wait for you to try it out and have so much fun like I did.